Now, we're trying to give you as much information on KaBuM and PEX as possible because it's new teams for a lot of you guys, but here we go in a champ select. They did decide to ban that Jarvan.
All right, so we're going to see the Jarvan and Vi away from Danagorn, so he's going to play his first sort of new champion in a really long time.
Yeah.
The Lee Sin does go away from Frachio, and I don't think it's going to change at all throughout this entire best of 5. As first pick's already coming through. Yeah, okay, no surprise there on the Mordekaiser hover. Bit of a taunt against KaBuM, but Alistair all ready for Lep.
Yeah, we haven't been seeing Alistair getting through in the entirety of the NA playoffs. But that is something that happens when you decide so heavily to target ban a specific player. Maokai versus Alistair, as far as the lane goes, is actually going to be an alright lane for the Maokai. It'll just be a matter of if they can survive the turret dives that are sure to come.
Oh, absolutely. And Uri's got himself the Ryze mid lane as well. Interesting to see that one rush picked so quickly without all that many mid lane bans. Not to mention a Kassadin ban in 4.14, which I also haven't seen very much of.
It's true. It could just be a throwback. Remember the last time these guys have played competitively, or as far as tournament, was way back on the 4.11 patch. And while you can make those adaptations, scrim versus actual practice, sometimes you just don't want to chance it. Orianna is probably going to get picked here.
Yeah, well, the cool thing for Tim, though, is that he doesn't have to rush this at all. He can take all the time he wants, make sure he can lock down other priority picks like maybe a jungler, maybe an AD carry away, and we'll see if they want to contest anything else here. Right now, however, going on to Kha'Zix and Morgana.
So they're saving.
Grab.
They're trying to save a little bit of picking time. It's pretty much always the case that unless a mid laner is locked in really early by the blue side, that the red side will last pick their mid laner. But with the genericness of the mid laners available for KaBuM, I don't necessarily know the value of that kind of pick. Theoretically, they could block a Yasuo a little bit, but they've already picked Ryze. You can see the solo lanes for PEX are already there, so there's no real counter pick threat coming out from them. They just pick power as far as the lanes go.
Yeah, and honestly, especially if you can sort of deny some of the picks away from these guys, it makes sense to early pick solos and force your opponent around. I know Ryze is good against Yasuo specifically, and so if you're trying to lock down Tin against that, then you have a little bit of extra power there for this one. We're going to see Mega JP and Bad Milk get their two champions here. Lucian, Braum, definitely a great combo if they do lock that in.
This pick and ban is going fairly similar to the scouting, where we know that PEX likes to favor the meta champions. I hate using the term, but that's the best way of describing it right now. Whatever champions are just considered top tier, they will pick, almost regardless of matchup in this case. They pick the Maokai and the Ryze right away, and then they say, KaBuM, bring it. Whatever you have for us, you're free to counterpick your mid lane despite being on blue side, which is what Tinones is going to be able to do to that Ryze.
All right, we'll see what the matchup ends up being. My gut check is Orianna here, but we'll have to see. Minerva, honestly, pretty big on playing hyper carries, though, right now.
For sure.
He's got Morgana to keep him safe.
Yep.
And now what is going to go alongside this? Knows he's fighting a strong laner in Lucian. If he goes for Twitch,
you could always lane swap as
exactly.
well.
In North America, you typically see people lane swap away. No, Trist will be the matchup here. So, Trist Morgana. I think should be pretty safe against Braum and Lucian here.
They don't necessarily have to lane swap.
No.
And also, as far as respect goes, the bottom lane of the PEX is their least respected lane.
Yeah.
Especially in the finals that they played against Lion Gaming, there was very poor CS scores in 2v2 lanes by Mega JP and Bad Milk. At one point, it was a Caitlyn versus Corki lane, but it was 50 CS to 15 at one point, which was not something that typically happens in professional league. So that's they're probably going to be free to do 2v2 if they want to.
Yeah, we'll see.
What I take from that.
I think that's a likely expectation here as well. And again, KaBuM coming in as believed favorites as well as I think favorites on paper, both in their minds and on what we've seen.
Oh, wow.
They might just want to go for the heads-up matchups there. And they're going to go for the Rengar. So interesting. See, in North America, you either play Rengar or win the game. You can't do both. We're going to see if PEX can turn that around here coming out.
Hey, remember, though, this is the much longer cooldown on Rengar Ultimate.
Yeah.
Rengar. So the quick kills that you'd be able to pull off with him are much fewer and far between. I'm a little surprised by that pick with the other junglers available, as far as maybe even Elise goes, with the Lee Sin being banned.
But yeah, that's exactly. How it goes. His Elise is there. There's plenty of other good stuff, and I do want to see what ends up happening. I'm trying to think as well on these strategic synergies here for the Rengar. because it's not like the cat ball combo where you get the initiations from Fog. He's kind of the only easy way in for the team. And there's so much protection as well for KaBuM. It's not like he's going to one-shot Tristana, I would feel.
There's always the outside chance that they're trying to use it for the extra vision. But these team comps will be real interesting as far as this goes. Again, KaBuM definitely the favorites coming into this one with the first pick Alistar and the fact that they pretty much got to counterpick all of their lanes. I would say they get an edge as far as strategic pick ban in this champ select.
Yeah.
But that's why you have to play the games.
Exactly. It's a best of 5, and it's going to be a whole bunch of fun. You can't guarantee who wins until all the games are played. But before we kick off the series, let's check your predictions online. According to lolesports.com, 62% of you say that KaBuM will win, and I can't say that's too surprising.
Yeah, you can also share your picks over on Twitter by tweeting hashtag KBMWin or PEX to the @LOLesports Twitter account. We will be tallying the votes throughout the game. You'll see them on the bottom of the screen, a little ticker that goes back and forth, depending on how much it changes. Should be good.
It should be really good. So we do have a quick pause as the game gets started here. So I'm looking at the comps right now.
Okay.
Alistar, Kha'Zix, Orianna, Tristana, Morgana. Honestly, looks like an incredibly strong composition, something I would not be surprised to see in pretty much any of the sort of major, like sort of, I don't want to say like first party regions, but like you know, the ones that have more of their guaranteed slots in the World Championship here. And I mean, it's just a scary lineup to face against. They've got a lot of utility, great engage as well. Evolved Leap plus Shockwave, for example, pretty incredible.
Cowball combo if they want it.
Right, and you've got a Tristana there to clean up in the back line. It's just like solid everywhere, and it's like it's an enviable composition.
Let's talk about supports for a second.
All right.
Because Morgana's been falling off in all the Korean games I've been watching. They just don't like the pick. We've been seeing less and less of it in North America.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm trying to figure out exactly why. I'm sure we could talk to Crepo. Everyone is going to have their reasons for it.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but one thing that I could think of is it is a fairly slow skill shot, and when teams are getting used to using it, I feel like they're getting better at navigating the terrain and not getting caught out by as many Dark Bindings. But in this particular game, against a weaker bottom lane from PEX, I feel like it's a brilliant pick, and I think Dan's is going to get a lot of catches with Morg.
I especially think that Morgana is going to be very effective in this matchup. My own theory is actually really heavily matchup-based, more just because I know bot lane 2v2 matchups a bit better than I know team comps. Morgana's bad against Zilean and bad against Nami. Both of whom have gotten more popular. And she is great against Braum, who's gotten less popular.
True.
And so as far as just a lane counterpick scenario, I see her less. And teams don't like to pick into bad lane matchups typically.
Yeah, there is that outside thing where Morgana rose to prominence typically as a counter to the hard engaged supports, but she is never good against like the traditional supports that you would see that would sit far at the back. So that is another reason for Morgana's fall. As well, she got nerfed.
Sure, of course she did. So now we'll see how the teams can get themselves into this game. Best of 5 here, spot in the World Championship on the line. KaBuM coming out of Brazil, PEX out of Latin America in general, specifically the Latin America South qualifier.
There were a few nerves, let's just say, at the start of this one. Kha'Zix and Morgana right here, so Danagorn and Dans, actually didn't buy trinkets when they were running out their level 1. They stopped about halfway until they reached defense, recalled back to base, and then bought trinkets.
Oh, wow.
So there's a few nerves going through these guys, knowing that a trip to Worlds is on the line.
Well, exactly what their manager said might be their downfall here, is if they just can't quite get the nerves under control in front of a big audience here. And the highest stakes that most of these players have ever faced, the spot at Worlds for this BO5 right here. Tristana spamming some taunts for good measure.
Well, they're trying a little bit of cheese right off the bat. The binding would help this.
Oh,
it's pretty close to the turret, though.
That's not a Mega JP, decent damage, but yeah, you're right. Not even a potion lost right there, but hey, a little bit of damage lead. Lep's gonna have to burn his teleport. He tried to make the play.
Yeah, they're hoping for a full face check from the AD carry. I don't even think they wanted to try Braum, because he got pretty close, and they probably could have landed the Pulverize on him, but they just decided not to. This slows down Danagorn's jungle a little bit because he was not able to get a point.
That's true. So he's going to do what he can to get around. This looks like Rengar is a little bit ahead on the other side, so Fragio, a bit nice try. Wow, those bindings!
Yep. I expect to see a lot of these. Den's obviously highest skill participation on the team, shot caller. Him being able to make some plays with binding is huge boon for these guys.
And you're seeing already Bad Milk being forced away. Dan's just harassing him back, saying, don't you dare. 5 gold per auto attack. Running plenty of money there. He's landing the Qs, you know, back in there, but Dan's just regenerating.
Yeah, we'll have to track the CS in this lane to see how far behind Mega JP gets. And likewise, we're going to have to track Yuri versus Tinones because Tinones is undefeated on Orianna. He drew 4 Orianna bans in the Brazilian final because he was so devastating with her in the semifinals. It's going to be tricky for Uri on Ryze with 2 defensive summoners or just move speed based summoners to slow that Ori down.
I do think it's a very good choice that he did pick Ghost though, because getting outranged is just so difficult for Ryze with the extra tools to get in. Rather important for the guy, but you're seeing good play by Minerva. You see how far he walks to the side of the lane before auto-attacking to get him back out of turret range before landing the damage. Doesn't pull any damage. And you're seeing out of potions, no Targon stacks left on Bad Milk either, and Mega JP is already almost pushed out of lane.
Right, and you can see he's burning dashes just by throwing out the Dark Binding, so the mana for Lucian is also not going to last forever if he keeps freely having to juke away from this bottom lane pressure that KaBuM is presenting.
Bind, and again, dashing away. I mean, thankfully it costs no mana now, but still, like, that's on cooldown all the time. You can't use it offensively. Right now, 21 to 18 in minions, but it's already a matchup where you want to be Tristana late game anyway, so plus 3 CS is a godsend in this kind of matchup.
Thank you for catching me on that one.
Yeah, it's true.
Lucian dash is free.
To be fair, I don't remember the cost
on his
one.
Q.
Yeah. It's hard to keep up with all the champions now that we're back to 2-week patch cadences.
Well, luckily we're on the 4.14 patch for the foreseeable future.
So Tin versus Uri right now, they are holding pretty equally, 30 to 30 CS basically, and Tin not making any major plays. So we have a fairly stagnant laning phase, which only 4 minutes in, not that big of a surprise.
Farming quite well, Ryze versus Ori early on, but the first big gank of the game, he tried to make it in the brush. Nope, unsuccessful.
Shows himself, nothing really happens. Minerva just still spamming the joke, because why not? It is in fact a rocket in the pocket, Minerva, thank you.
Yeah, look at all the attention they're drawing too here with this Trist. Unbeknownst is the Alistar in the top lane, 35 CS to 19. He's actually been bullying Monterrey a little bit up there. So all the attention that Rengar spends down here may very well negatively impact the rest of the map.
And just imagine once Team Fight starts, a super-powered Alistar, like as soon as he gets that Sheen, it feels like he'll be really able to bully the Maokai out of the lane, so that is not something I really would be looking forward to on PEX's side. And 30 seconds when TP's back up there. Now, Danagorn, first pink ward of the map, I believe. We'll be able to watch pushes around there.
That's the headbutt and auto attack that is pretty much what allows top lane Alistar to be a bully. That's why the Sheen is so effective on him.
And headbutt max, no surprise there. Oh, nice! I don't know if he predicted that necessarily, but it was sick if it was.
Really nice. Obviously, he even prevented the damage right there because he interrupted the headbutt before it reached, what it looked like.
Yeah, had to have. He would have gone backwards otherwise. Headbutt full rose combo, a little bit of damage there. That's fine. Another dash away from the binding. Mega JP has recalled once for a pickaxe. Not too bad, though. It's an item that's worth staying on for a while. As they go again back into the lane. First recall, 16 CS lead here for Minerva.
Yeah,
I still feel like F-Sword.
I still feel like all these dashes that Mega JP is using just when a binding is thrown out, while it's giving him some safe feelings as far as dodging the dark bindings, it's really diminishing the pressure that they hold in that lane.
Yeah.
With the dash down, they can never go offensive, and it's even putting them at risk of farther ganks. While it's on cooldown, he can't really get that aggressive for CS.
Yeah, and you kind of just know for sure on KaBuM's side that, like, there's never going to be pressure there. Your jungler's free to do whatever he wants because you shouldn't even fear Frahio for a while. And you can see now the attempted push towards his top lane red buff. Of course, KaBuM inferring the timer.
Right. Well, they know where Frahio came for his first gank at level 3, so they can pretty much say that he started red buff. They know if they want to invade that, and it appears that Kazakhs is in there unseen, but they should be able to infer that he was there. We'll end up seeing what happens here. Coming from the fog of war. He wants that head of Kazakhs right here.
Kazakhs, the lore matchup. Can Danagorn get in? There's the jumping in. Good decent damage. There's the root in place. Flashes the wall. Yeah, and Tino's forcing the flash with Danagorn.
That's tricky though. They have Braum here though, so Bad Milk trying to turn around.
Oh man, Tino's at a half HP. Is level 6. Can he get the shockwave down? In comes Alistar, but the ignite might just be enough damage. No, Tino's at 1 health. Getting away. In comes Alistar. Braum gets the first blood. That is Bad Milk. And this matchup has soured for KaBuM. They are running away. Braum, though, still doing a body good there. Danagorn, one hit from dead, and Mantarraya takes him down.
Hey, that is the PEX specialty. That is how they made it here. Even if they're not able to win lanes, they are fantastic at capitalizing on enemy aggression. As soon as KaBuM felt comfortable from their lane leads, they made a move. Since the bottom lane was being lost anyway, Bad Milk just decided to leave Mega JP on his own, and they turned 2 kills around. But here's the counter.
Well, they got to be careful, though. Morgana did pull aggro. She's running back in now. Mega JP is fairly safe. Minerva is kind of a rocket jump is down. Binding, not going to do too much here, but that will be a sapling slow.
There is a flash. It's a matter of whether he gets his twisted advance started.
Field in time to stop the advance.
Wrong way.
Knocked Mantarraya the wrong direction. There's the knockup flash. Doesn't matter. Hits them both. Finally, the rocket jump comes out. Good dark binding, and KaBuM does get away.
Whew. So a very close escape, but every summoner spell burned by KaBuM with that move. And the CS advantage dwindles a little bit right there with that failed dive. They wasted so much time trying to chase around Mega JP that they lose that edge a little bit. At least they burn the teleport from Mantarraya.
So they did a little bit there, and they got some more time for Lep to make moves. That guy is now up 66 to 41 minions. But to be fair, it's still a 600 gold lead now. 4 packs, actually 400 gold lead for them off those kills. So yeah, it's a pretty good place to be when you get counter ganks like that.
Blue buff, Catalyst, and Tier onto Ryze in the mid lane. That is very important as far as this game progressing. They're going to have a big wall of tanks when they're trying to move in for these team fights, which when you can get ahead is just a very, very strong strategy. They get that by picking the Ryze and the Maokai very early in Champ Select and seeing whether or not KaBuM was willing to win the counter matchups.
And so far, the only lane that's, I guess bot lane kind of got back to equal. 8 CS, not that hard anymore. And sure, Trist has that theoretical 40-minute late game advantage, but it just kind of got dwindled right there. So it's basically the tank matchup is being won by KaBuM, which maybe doesn't really mean that much. At least not yet.
No, and even then, it's a 1-kill Maokai versus a 0-kill Alistar. If you check the gold for that one, it's actually 70 gold more for Lep. He's not winning that matchup as of yet, and as soon as Mantarraya gets a Roa, even just with the Catalyst, he's pretty good at just wave clearing and sustaining that up. That is going to just be a traded matchup for the foreseeable future.
So we have to see then what happens in team fights here. Thankfully for KaBuM, Tin is on that great Orianna. Shockwave's, of course, an incredible spell to have.
Wonder if we're going to see this Rengar gank. He's trying to stack up to full Fury.
And there he has it.
Ferocity.
Yep.
If we're being technical about this.
Why not?
He's going to... You don't really kill an Alistar in the top lane. I would imagine his gank...
No.
I imagine his gank should go mid lane for Tinones. But there's some pretty spectacular ward coverage, actually, by KaBuM.
Yeah. There's only down the lane. That's the only easy gank path for Frahio here. Sweeps it out, says, okay, there are no wards in try, but he spent the last minute waiting by double golems, hoping there was a gank, and then finding nothing.
I think he was hoping for a counter gank, so just a little bit of a missed read right there because Kha'Zix was actually sitting bot lane that whole time. You can see much better pink ward control from KaBuM at the moment, yet they're all defensive pink wards, so it's not really allowing them to take hold in this game.
Yeah, they can't track Frahio. They can see if they're getting invaded on, which isn't happening, so okay, I guess that
yet if they're winning lanes, if KaBuM is winning lanes, they're generally not going to be invaded on.
True. And as soon as lanes win, you can just run in and clear the pink wards away. Now Mega JP finally turns aggressive. A couple autos in a queue right there. Minerva suddenly has to be a bit more afraid of this one.
Yeah. Look at Mega JP's build right now. He is completely about the early game. He's never had enough gold to go back and buy a BF sword, so he's just stacking AD. But because of that build right now, he's incredibly gold efficient for what he spent. And it gave him some bullying potential against Triss.
Doing plenty of damage right here. That will be the dragon picked up here by PEX, and look at that, 1,300 gold lead now for these guys.
Wow.
On the road to Worlds, they're winning game 1.
Trying to represent the Latin American region to the best of their ability right now. I really like that AD carry build because I don't want this to come across the wrong way. That's kind of what I end up doing on AD carry when I'm losing lane. It's like, I'm just going to keep building stuff. I don't care if I don't get a BF sword because I might actually win a fight if I build these items. And that's basically what happened. He could never get to his BF sword.
Right.
But he got enough attack damage. I mean, that build right now has him sitting at 149 AD on Lucian, which is the same as Trist.
Exactly.
And then Lucian has better mid-game power as long as he's kept the items equal in that way.
I mean, it's cool too, because the great thing as well is it fits into the build. He's gonna get a Brutalizer as his like first or second completed item in the first place. He'll get the Eye eventually as well. Like, it's not even like he's really losing anything out by this. Just, oh no, I'm not combining right away. Like, who cares? Neither has Trist. So it's kind of whatever. Minerva trying to get a little bit of harass down. That binding's gonna get dodged by just some quick auto, a right click on the ground. And life's all right again.
Look at this.
Really
man.
Good culling.
Every shot of the culling hit Minerva, and now he's basically chunked down.
With the double Dorans for a sustain. Like, that's not very much. Q thankfully misses. Minerva can stay up there, but suddenly, Mega JP is self-sufficient, and Braum just throw him around.
Ever since that Braum roam, it actually just kind of kicked Mega JP into high gear as far as being able to get farm going. He's going to have enough gold for his BF sword, actually, most likely on his next back, because he's been able to farm for quite some time now. And Minerva did not go back after that last little bit of damage. Herein lies the danger, though, if they get over-aggressive, because Kha'Zix lays in wait.
Oh my gosh, 200 health now on Minerva. They've really got to be careful about this one. Good blocking in by Bad Milk, and the push will stay, but KaBuM are forced to take a sub-optimal recall now in the bottom lane, and Danagorn is going to soak up experience.
They're sticking in strong right here.
Yeah.
Continuing to dash out of those dark bindings. And now they're on the offensive. So the last time we saw KaBuM go a little offensive, they got picked off on a red invade. Now PEX giving him a taste of their own medicine.
Oh, that binding was really close. Could not quite catch Frahio, and out he goes. Tin is trying to contain this red buff for his team. Looks like that will happen. Danagorn sweeps away ward, says no one's around. Okay, I can grab that with smite and auto attacks. And life is safe once again, but that was all kinds of scary.
PEX runs away while they still can. Frahio is falling fairly far behind in experience. That's a level 9 Kha'Zix.
Oh, wow.
He'll be hitting level 8 on this blue buff once he gives it away, but it's still not ideal.
Yeah, it's weird because we haven't even seen Thrill the Hunt come out from this Rengar yet. Like, you say, okay, well, maybe he's down in levels because he's been ganking a lot and it just hasn't quite paid off, and sometimes that's kind of forgivable, but here he's waiting and wait and saying, you know what, that's actually not a gank, never mind. And that happens over and over again. Now Mantarraya wants to make his way down to the bottom lane, and they're going to go for this one.
Oh, man.
And they have surrounded Minerva and Dan.
This is really brute force.
Flash under the turret. Alistar gets the headbutt pulverized, and Lep is suddenly not where he wants to be. Ulti's still on. It's going to time out in about 2 seconds right now, and now he tries to run away. Good damage coming out. Culling coming across well, and KaBuM, they do walk away safely.
A 5-man collapse on the bottom lane. Lep showing why Alistar's banned fairly frequently. Tanks all 5 of them for quite a while, giving enough time for KaBuM to support. And now it's a potentially 4v5 into the turn. I mean, Kha'Zix of all people is split pushing the top lane. This is a win for KaBuM in this situation because it was a 5-man investment for no rewards.
Yeah, I felt like it was KaBuM realizing they would defend under the turret just fine, so Danagorn went to hold lane, and Lep was like, okay, I'll defend you guys, don't worry.
Because he had to teleport down.
Right, and it was just like a really good hold, and PEX just didn't get anything for a ridiculously aggressive move.
Yeah, one will call that a good rotation, actually. Ooh, Shockwave right there by Tenose. Uri's pretty tanky, though.
Yeah, he's fine. Rod of Age is already done. 60 minutes in. Top lane turret goes down first of the game. And with that, KaBuM ties the gold back at 22,000 each.
So Rengar Ultimate was burned in that last little skirmish down in the bottom lane. Very, very close game. A lot of this is going to come down to the team fighting. Double Roa right now for PEX. Let's see where the stacking is on those. So we're not there really on either of them. They need about another... So Rod of Ages was just completed onto Mantarraya.
Yeah, that's 10 minutes.
Yeah, and it's another 4 minutes.
7 Yuri's. 2 per stack. It's 2 per minute, right?
Okay, 7 minutes, yeah. Then they'll be at full power from those.
Yep.
A lot of time is needed from PEX, but it's kind of a catch-22 because they want time for their Rod of Ages to get big, but then if they give too much time to the Trist, Alistar, Ori team comp, they will most likely get outscaled. So they kind of need to wait 5 minutes and then go, but not wait too long.
Well, that'll actually time up pretty well.
Got to find their windows of power.
Thing is, there's actually a pretty good window here on Lucian versus Trist. They're both going to finish Eye-Edge first, and that's fine. But Brutalizer comes in way faster than like a Static Shiv for Tristana. So you're going to have this great like level 12-ish window where Lucian's just much, much, much more useful. The first or second Dragon's going to come up, and I think it's still going to be good for PEX here as well. Especially if they can walk Mantarraya down, because his ulti's going to be so good for the team fight.
Well, with Dragon in 20 seconds, I wonder if we're even going to get to that point, because there is an Infinity Edge on Minerva and just the attack damage components onto Mega JP. This one could very well just go to KaBuM, though, because Alistair's roamed down and there's no teleport on Maokai to match. PEX would have to give this one up if they don't want to lose the fight.
Yeah, you're right. Very nicely done by KaBuM. Lep coming down was a big deal. They're just sending Manta down now, but that might be a little bit too late. Wards being swept away now by KaBuM. They want to control vision, but this is buying enough time for the Maokai to rejoin the PEX roster.
He's got to run real fast. At the moment it was superior team play, but they get the catch before Maokai's there. Let's see what happens.
All right, ulti popped in by Braum. Out he runs. Lep burns his as well, so 2 ults
Gar is
down.
ulted. As he go in, they have the notifications.
They know he's going to jump in for Danagorn, who leaps away and stays safe. And looks like just a trading of blows back and forth. Ward's still coming down. Looks like PEX will see this dragon.
Yeah, it would be a poke war here. Ori does have much better poke than PEX at the moment.
And looks like KaBuM are just forcing them back towards the mid lane. There is a wave here that can be used to push, though.
The interesting thing about this is KaBuM doesn't have an Alistair ult at the moment, so if they do get a fight, it might not work out.
Well, flash engage. Mantaraya up there in the front lines, and Lep going to
just focus Alistair. That's all they need to do.
And they're doing some really good damage. Lep forced to run away. Danagorn also incredibly low on health. Bad Milk tosses the slow. Lep now at 400 health. There's the root. There's the kill picked up. Bad Milk, I think, now has 2 kills on his team.
If PEX can fight in the windows when Lep's ultimate is down on Alistair, they will win, because it is a tankless team on KaBuM right there and a team of tanks on PEX's side. Really good just knowledge there of when to go in and who to target, which gives them the fight and yet another dragon.
Beautiful stuff right there. PEX now do have all the dragons in the game, a 1,500 gold lead as well. Of course, this is just game 1 of 5, but those early lane troubles have turned around pretty nicely. You're seeing now bottom lane Editor taking plenty of damage. Mega JP not afraid of Dans, and in fact, feel like they could dive the Morgana, who's completely alone. Only now does Minerva come in. But that is even more gold coming PEX's way.
So quite a game 1 performance. Despite losing some of their lanes early, they have held on. They've won the team fights. Monterrey is sticking to it despite a tough lane matchup against Alistair with all those headbutt punches. Mega JP was able to survive when Braum roamed away. It's one of the big things that gave PEX those first few kills. And now it's going to be whether or not they can pull the trigger on this edge and start getting some turrets of their own.
There's got to be a decent chance of this, though. I think Archangel's staff should be done pretty soonish for Ryze. That's going to get completed as he finishes the recall. He's got the money for it. And it's weird because KaBuM, I just keep thinking of the story about how they're supposed to be the favorites here and what kind of game they're trying to play. They didn't do this thing where you expect to win and you play passively and you're just like, the game will fall into our lap. They went for that invade on the red buff at 7 minutes, and they got stuffed by an amazing roam from Bad Milk of PEX. And you're like, if we're the favorites and aggressive moves aren't working, what do we even do suddenly?
It's a good question. I mean, I still think back to the fact that 2 players forgot to buy trinkets at level 1.
Yeah.
That still happens to all of us, but only when you're distracted by something. Here, though, Minerva trying to make a big play.
Wow, damage output. 1 hit to go. To Minerva can reach him. Red buff is still on. There's the kill. 1v1. KaBuM Minerva. Proven 80 carry power right there.
That's one way to start getting back into the game. If Trist gets big, there is not that much PEX can do about it. And now they're just seeing if they can use that confidence for another play. Pink War behind him, but that just reveals the Kazakhs.
And that's going to be Kazakhs who's got to be afraid, but a nice 2-man shockwave. They're going to go in. Bad Milk does not land the knock. Kabuti's going to go down to the binding or the autos of Kazakhs, and that is a 1-for-1 actually, as in comes Frahio.
Surprising collapse right there. Alistair a little bit farther behind. Teleport burned, however. They will be able to leverage that in the future. Now they're trying to push 2 lanes at once. 3 in the mid, Trist in the bot.
And Trist gonna have a pretty easy field day, 1v0 right here. Mid lane outer gonna go down as well, and KaBuM finally claw their way back in within 700 gold.
Definitely all started by Minerva right there. A lot of the times that happens. We knew these teams sometimes have issues with team play. We're gonna look at this mid lane fight once again, though. A good collapse by the Kazakhs. The big thing was just the timely black shielding of the Morg as well. They try to ult to stop him. A, it missed. B, there was a black shield. They run all the way in. Unfortunately, he gets Braum stunned in the turret, so a little bit more precision there would have been a 1-for-0, but it still gave them the turret afterwards with all the pressure they created.
I like the setup too. From Fog of War evolved Spike Racks. Just the 50% slow
to set the shockwave up.
Yeah, the Rise just can't get away from that at all, and it was pretty beautiful. So the flank moves, the dive's still looking decent for KaBuM. I'm glad they are still feeling that they should play aggressively, because that's generally how you win a game of League of Legends, even though they are down 2 kills to 4.
Just to go back a little bit, though, before that play, when Minerva soloed Mega JP down in the bottom lane, I cannot overstate how demoralizing 1v1 kills can be, not for the individual, but for the team. Immediately they feel pressure to do something else, and that's one of the big reasons it hurt off from there. And now Lep tries to make a play.
Ultis pop by both top laners. Now Rengar in the mix as well. Can he do much? Lep's still wearing a black shield, though, means he's not going to really go down.
That's a lot of damage.
Takes a big chunk out from Rise. He's got to get away.
Well, Yuri is the founder of the team, and pretty much the guy who's involved in all their big plays. He's getting pretty farmed on Rise right here.
Yeah.
And will be a big threat probably for the next 15 minutes or so. Maybe even longer. It's funny, Rise hits his max items generally before other mages. So he'll have that big power spike around 40-45 minutes.
It's actually pretty incredible. When we look at sort of CS at 10 numbers, you're like, oh yeah, the Karthuses, the Anivias, the Orianas of the world who take Wraiths all the time, and they're just like these AoE mages where you expect it to happen. Rise is at 10 CS per minute, which I feel like I don't see that much from Rise. Just from his laning phase being a little bit rough.
A lot of times Rise are trying to survive that laning phase.
Right, not thriving, where he's actually doing incredibly right here.
Yeah, that is a very powerful Rise right now. So much so that there's not magic resist built up really on the enemy, and he's hitting some pretty powerful points in the game right now with nearly 3,000 mana already on Rise.
So incredible stuff so far by Uri here in the mid lane. Early pick Rise, first round actually. They went Maokai Rise their first 2 picks here. So far those guys are holding up. 1-0-1 on Montaraya's Maokai, and life is good.
This game is still ridiculously close.
Yeah.
One thing I need to be tracking here is Frahio's Rengar build, because it's not your typical Rengar build. A lot of guys we've seen will sit on a Madrid's Razor, then go a bunch of cooldown reduction for quick ultimates.
Right.
Of course, Rengar's ultimate was nerfed to a point where it takes much longer to cool down, and then he still didn't go with the cooldown reduction, so he's going more of a damage Rengar build, which maybe he's going to try some type of split pushing or assassination with, but I've almost never seen that work recently. As far as the high damage Rengar, unless he's like 8-0, I don't see him soloing people that often, so he's going to be a little bit squishy if he jumps in at the wrong time. And I do wonder how effective he'll be able to be with that low CS number and the damage build.
Yeah, there are a few things I'm thinking about with this. So one is they do have a dual tank line already. I don't think you ever need 3 tanks. They have Maokai, they have Braum. So as far as a durability from a team standpoint, I understand squishy Rengar.
Yeah.
Now, he has managed to get to the point where he's actually out-leveling Danagorn. So he has been farming more recently.
Yeah, you can
and
see
maybe that build's going to spike up.
The Pharaoh Flare transform.
Right.
Is one big moment. This next dragon will be so telling. Teleport advantage is on Alistair, though, so it makes it a little difficult. Monteraya needs another 25 seconds before he could counter a teleport, or he just needs to stay close to Alistair. He is doing neither, but the dragon is not immediately getting contested right now.
Yeah.
I don't feel like KaBuM has the timer on the teleport from Maokai.
It seems not. It's up in about 10 seconds, though. Frahio also burned his ulti, and I don't know if anyone got notifications from it, but that is on cooldown now on KaBuM, now starting this one up.
Pretty bold dragon. They haven't swept, and they have no pink ward. So they're doing this right in the face of PEX. It's going out fast, though. Let's see Rengar.
They're going to take damage pretty soon. There's a flash and steal from Frahio, and he's going to be going down, but the dragon is still theirs. Now, can they get much more? Danagorn on the chase. Good knock up there from Braum to keep him safe, but Danagorn goes in anyway. Mostly squishy. There's the headbutt, pulverize, engage. Mantaraya goes down, and Danagorn is going to be getting his second kill of that fight.
While the steal is nice, unless it is coordinated with an initiation, it only leads to chaos. 2 deaths, and now their turrets are at risk.
And it's going to be mid lane tier 2 going down right about now. Tristana, Shiv, Infinity, engage, Shockwave lands. Hootie's got to run away. Can he stay alive? Looks like maybe, but in goes Tin with the Ignite as well. That will be the kill picked up by the Oriana player from Brazil, and that is the tier 2 turret going down.
Some big playmaking coming in from KaBuM right there. Flash to Alistair combo into the Shockwave, and a whole bunch of damage goes down. Let's check that out one more time. You can see with the black shield, nothing to stop the Alistair. They throw the shield on, They get the shockwave. It only sucks in Yuri because of that nice flash from Mega JP, but it gets the job done. They get the kills, kill, and the turret.
Yeah, Bad Milk force flash away, and down goes the rest of everything else. So, KaBuM clawing slowly back into this one. 1,700 gold only. The lead right here. The first time they've had a kill lead, I think, the entire game as well. And PEX are having the mid-game slip away from them a little bit here.
Yeah. I wonder if it's going to be a little bit too late for them now. You can see the damage items being completed onto Lep. You can see the static shiv onto Minerva, so the little brutalizer jump that Mega JP had may be getting bypassed now by Minerva's Trist.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get really difficult. Navigating teamfights like this, champions like Orianna and Kha'Zix and Alistar are really hard to play Lucian as, because you're always close to them. You're always in range of their incredibly debilitating CC. Whereas Minerva's like, I can outrange a Ryze, that's like free.
Very true. Magic Resist being built up onto Rengar as well. Make it very hard if he tries to dive Tristana. Good rotation there to get the turret, though, keeping the gold pretty even. They're going to probably try and work around the Baron Pit a little bit for vision, but they can't exactly force just because of the strength of that Orianna plus Alistar combo. They're on very unsteady ground right now if you're PEX.
Yeah.
Feels like KaBuM has the momentum back.
Yeah, PEX needs vision pretty badly to not get snuffed out by these incredibly good engage combos that we've seen now multiple times here from KaBuM. Pink ward's going away, so the attempts to control vision, not even getting to stick around very much. Dan's ward's a bit more gold. McKill's Crucible now on him. And yeah, I feel like KaBuM can play a lot more secure now. I think that the sort of frightful part is over. Now that they've shown they can win fights multiple times, they're up 4 turrets to 2. They're not in any immediate danger anymore.
They keep backing for these different times, and they've kind of given away 2 turrets. They're just outers, but it will open up the map a little bit more.
PEX got to be a little bit careful, though. Oh, the turret does go down. 500 gold goes over to PEX for that one. Lep rooted in place, never mind for that one. But Danagorn goes in a bit by himself. They do find Flavio, though. Doesn't go in.
Yeah, tremendous amounts of vision will be given by that Rengar ultimate for him, but he was using it as a defensive mechanism. You can really see that Rengar starting to fall off a bit of a cliff as far as relevancy. Whereas Danagorn is becoming more and more potent. The vision control granted here by KaBuM is going to be pretty key. See how many wards they can get down. They pretty much just have the Sightstone from Dan's. No one actually packing wards with that invade, so they don't get as much vision as they would have wished, but they still control the blue buff, and that should set up a little bit of split pushing for Minerva's Trist.
But you're right about the ward control, though. KaBuM are back down to only 2 pink wards on the map. They're trying to find this pick, though, onto Ryze. He pops the ulti to get away. Binding, not quite going to land. And out goes Yuri here. But only 2 pink wards. Dragon control not required just yet. Baron, though, only a single green ward. And they're going to have to restock.
Quite a game here, though. PEX definitely showing up. Just winning that best of 3. Sometimes you just like to smash the ground on Alistar. It feels good.
So it's a good stretch.
Cool
the warm exercise. Yeah. You just wanted to trample around. Thinks it looks cool. Bad Milk sweeps it away.
Unless PEX gets some type of miraculous initiation, they're going to be hard-pressed to win this game. The power of Tanone's Orianna at this point in the game may be a little bit too great, especially considering how grouped PEX is going to be around the times of their initiations. Ryze, fairly short-ranged. Maokai and Rengar kind of go together. Braum likes to follow up.
Yeah.
Tanones should hold a lot of control with his shockwaves. So the gold isn't really indicative of how much momentum KaBuM actually has here.
I actually agree a lot, and I want to touch back to a point you made earlier in one of the first Dragon fights about how PEX would love to fight around Lep's Alistar ulti cooldown. Right?
But if they never force fights, yeah.
Right, and the thing, right, not only do they not have very good hard engage, but even if they were able to force the fight, they can't, like, run away from Alistar Orianna and, like, come back in. They're also short range, and the engage is so darn strong from KaBuM.
And PEX is very all-in with their initiation, so they don't really have the tools to force an Alistar ultimate, disengage, and re-engage. They just pretty much engage and hope it works.
Yeah, so Lep only building his first defensive item now. Looks like a Guardian Angel, potentially, off of Trinity 4 Static Shiv. So very headbutt trade focused.
Dragging back up, you can see PEX has lost all control. They're just trying to get some vision around the Baron area once again. They could make a really drastic move and try and rush it down, but it's going to be right on top of Pinks.
Wow,
it's right on top of a Pink.
Literally on top of wards, but KaBuM thought that was going to be too bold. They had went towards the bottom lane. Now they're coming. Lev will be in there, but the team might not be there in time.
They hit Baron.
They will hit Baron. That will be PEX's Baron. Smite it up. And here comes the engage. Lev's ulti is down right now. And can they find more? Yuri goes in. Tino's forced to flash away. Will they find any more engagements? Monterrey in the front lines. And down goes Lev. Beautiful shockwave to buy some time. But there comes Yuri trying to take that 10. He will trade 2 for 1 plus Baron for PEX.
Wow, so PEX seems to pull a rabbit out of their hat whenever they need to find a play, and they're still getting a little bit pushed back. Minerva jumps in.
Nice bind right there. Minerva has all the focus onto him. Can he find it? Mega JP says, don't you dare. Tries to take him down. Flash comes in. Another root goes for the Maokai here. Danagor gets stunned. The dive on
so
in. That will finally be the kill of Mega JP. Make that a 3 for 1 plus Baron for PEX.
Yeah, and Baron will remain on 4 members of PEX. Holy crap, Freak. We were saying the only thing that will allow PEX to win is if they can somehow burn the Alistar ult and then get a fight. And lo and behold, the Alistar ult is burned while the Baron is there. They get the Baron, and then the fight starts. Lep is a non-factor. He cannot create Ori Ball combo help. Everyone is on the retreat. It was a great shockwave that Chinones lands, actually. If we watch it right about here, he moves into position. I think he hits... How many does he get? 3 full people. It slowed them down, but because the Ali ult was down, because Yuri was flanking around the back, it wasn't enough. And then KaBuM is still playing with a fair bit of confidence. They did try that re-engage, got it almost a kill back, and Tristana is getting stronger, but holy crap. PEX is pulling at all the stops here.
And hey man, when it's all down to this, you get upset wins your entire way to qualify. Why not make an upset win to get to Worlds? And so far, so good for PEX right here. It does pose questions to me, though, for KaBuM's mental state, because you know you are in a 3v4 against a Baron buff, and they chose to chase.
They were feeling real confident with Minerva's strength, though. Trist is getting rather strong.
Yeah.
So I think they were just holding that confidence in there, and they very nearly turned it around. So, plus there's that added need. If you see Baron buff on people, you want to kill them right after the Baron, just try to get it back right away.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work that way, though.
Didn't happen just yet. PEX now 600 gold in the lead. Doesn't mean too much. It's more been about how the teams are fighting. And right now, PEX have found the better ones. Back to a kill lead as well. And they're going to look down towards his bottom lane. Thing is, the wave's not in their favor just yet, so there's no immediately created pressure. Any moves here will be telegraphed by the fact that the minion wave will see them.
One really unfortunate thing that is kind of adding to Rengar's irrelevancy as this game moves on. He only has 2 stacks on his Bone Tooth necklace. So he's actually getting almost none of the bonuses that you would normally see at this stage of the game from the Rengar. It's rather unfortunate. But this Maokai, getting a little bit bashed around, but is a little bit stronger than Alistar in the duels at this point.
Yeah, he was winning those battles pretty heavily right here. And it's going to make life a little bit easier when you're Monterrey here in the top lane. Building more conventionally and tanky. We normally don't see Alistar's build 2 offensive items. Usually just Triforce in the tank.
Yeah, well, this is kind of the debut of Alistar, was that build. Bad Milk, though,
just goes down.
Just not a good position to be in.
Yeah. Heavily overextended. Mega TP now forced to run away, but Danagor is close by. Does not quite land the slow.
That'll stop that push right away, though.
It doesn't stop this top lane, though.
Keep that. Yeah, this was the Alistar build when it made its debut in the European LCS.
Yeah, that was...
It's all about the headbutt punch. You get the Trinity Force proc as well as the Static Shiv proc.
Yeah, but any kind of build like this, as long as you're the better mid-duration fighter, like you deal with the burst and engage anyway. Right. Yeah. And then there's like literally 0 follow-up with no tank stats to back you up. And so Maokai, who can withstand the damage and then throw 3 spells back in his face, it makes sense he would win this fight. It actually makes me wonder how much Lep knows this matchup specifically. Because I feel like every time you fight this battle, those item builds would turn out this way.
Well, remember, Danagor and Picks and Bans was heavily targeted. So you almost always will see an Alistar ban, as of recently, from the red side team to prevent the first pick. So a lot of the time, you're just kind of picking Alistar because it's up, not necessarily because you have a strategy built around it. Maybe what happened here. Danagor, however, despite being targeted with both a Jarvan and a Viban, which are the 2 champions he played throughout the duration of the Brazilian regional qualifier, is having a pretty good showing on Kha'Zix, I would have to say.
Yeah, it's been pretty reasonable. The slows from W have been good. When talking to their team about champion pools and if they had any secrets or whatever, he's like, yeah, you know, Danagorn plays a lot of things that work well with Orianna, right? The Vi ball combos, the Jarvan ball combos, like why not 900 range leap for the ball combo? And
true.
Things that reach your opponent's team. The tier list for Danagorn.
Trista's going to be able to get her last Whisper on the next trip back to base, which will be right now. That is really important.
Yes.
The next team fight that happens, watch for Minerva to get a lot of kills. If he can keep his positioning right, it's basically going to be about whether or not Yuri can charge through the Alistar, the Orianna, the Morgana, and actually get some damage down on Trist, because if no one does, that 700+ range Trist with insane attack speed will shred everybody.
She absolutely will, and the thing is, Mega JP can't keep up. He's a full item down against that Tristana. The global gold, the individual kills, the CS, all that contributes to a really low damage Lucian right now. That's going to make life pretty hard as Baron buff times out, as the Rise becomes the only real damage threat on the team for PEX. If Lep can ult at the right times, I don't see how the KaBuM team falls apart.
We said this last time.
I know.
And then PEX ran to Baron and made a play.
It was a great play. It was funny because it was such a ridiculously low percentage play that it worked.
Yeah.
KaBuM expected there's no way they do Baron. We have wards over it. They went bottom lane and got punished for it.
Ran up to blue buff. That was the mistake of KaBuM.
Yeah.
And there was no real way of PEX knowing that KaBuM would run to blue, so it was a stroke of luck that made it through here. But even so, they haven't been able to maintain control. They had Bad Milk getting caught out during a bottom lane siege, so they really couldn't create anything. And honestly, PEX's actual turret siege is atrocious. They need to find fights outside of turrets in order to take turrets. Pretty much that only happens around the Baron pit, so PEX, if they want to legitimately try and win this game, they have to fight around this Baron pit.
Well, it's going to be the pick right there. A nice multi-man knockup. Danagorn goes in for Montaraz.
They kill Minerva!
Mega JP just took down Minerva, though. 3-man shockwave. The battle continues. 10 owns just brought down by the Lucian damage up, but they caught the backline. The root onto Dance. Who cares about an Alistar? Kill everybody else. 3 kills for PEX.
It just keeps happening. It is uncanny right now, Freak. Every time PEX is at a make or break point, they don't break, they make the play. They get 3 kills, including a beautiful catch on Minerva, do not suffer a single casualty, and this Baron should be theirs. Let's see what Danagorn can do.
Oh, he is around, though, walking by a couple of words to make this happen. Puts a sweeper down, says, yep, they can see me. Let's not even try. And Baron number 2 now goes to PEX, 2,000 gold lead, and they've got some time to keep working their way back on in. Man, I can't believe this is really going on, but yeah. PEX just kind of defying all the odds.
Feels like they're playing with their backs against the wall. And I know the gold has been close the whole time, but believe me, they're pulling off some very, very clutch plays. PEX now still with some death timers, trying to get turrets down before people respawn because their siege is not very good.
All right, well, here's the race. Middle inhibitor turret going to be going down right as the team comes in. Dark Binding will hit minions as the rest of the wave gets cleared away by Alistar and Kha'Zix. And a quick retreat now by PEX. There's not much that's important left in the jungle. Frahio claims one of the big raids to get another stack on his Feral Flare. Now 4 stacks to the Bone Tooth.
Yeah, we got to take another look at this. Trist just wasn't in position. A great flash by Rise right over top of the ward. He was trying to flank. Another great shockwave was landed, but there just wasn't the follow-up. Tanones get bursted down again by Mega JP, who when Lucian gets his mitts on you, he still bursts down a lot of damage. It's kind of the name of the game for PEX. If they can get into range and pick their own fights, they're able to win them. And
I mean, keep in mind the item disparity between Minerva and Mega JP is a Last Whisper, which doesn't matter when you're hitting a Tristana who doesn't have much armor. So, you know, it's all kind of a relative item lead. It depends what you're really battling against there. Didn't matter in that case. Also, another kill that was granted basically by vision control. There were wards in the brush that saw Minerva come in. There were no wards seeing the basically PEX flank there. And great Nasty to say, let's go for this.
And it seems like the momentum has been turned around to PEX there. Finding that fight was just so absolutely critical. Yuri, though, is reaching his full items. Likewise, actually, for Tanones and Minerva. So I really wonder whether or not the Alistar versus Maokai matchup will be enough to kind of turn this one around, knowing that Maokai will scale so much better with these items. Lep is still just those 2 spells in the hit, and then he's pretty much just a wall to take damage.
Yeah.
Whereas Monterea can do a lot more on Maokai. Now with the Thornmail, they're really trying to neutralize the Trist. And they're not respecting the Alistair as an actual threat.
They don't seem to need to right now. Defensive focus now by Mega JP. Guardian Angel picked up, not a Last Whisper to break down the front line. Does not seem to care about that at all, as you mentioned. The disrespect toward the Alistair. Lep 0-2 and 3. High CS, sure, but maybe it doesn't even matter. And PEX, as you say, with control. They're going to push all the lanes in. Maokai splitting towards the top side.
Defensive itemization by Mega JP as well. They're trying to make everyone a non-ideal target. You can see Rengar also changed his build path almost immediately. He went for Cutlass, immediately went towards tank. Everyone on that team is hard to kill. So as long as they can get some nice target prioritization onto either Tinones or Minerva, that's their strategy to win the fights. They all build tank, they take out the damage dealers as quickly as possible, and then they try to win. And here we go, flashing on Minerva, but he hits back.
Minerva does a whole bunch of damage. Good flash from Mega JP to get away from the shockwave there. Yuri forced away. Middle inhibitor not taking a single scratch, but maybe KaBuM wants to re-engage. And in fact, they do. 3-man pulverize. The bind finds Lucian. Mega JP 2 hits from dead, but he's got a GA. Mantaraya now in the front lines. He's going to tank it up, and they take down Danagorn, but trades his own life for it. The knockback away, but Dance will fall.
So
Mega
much
JP
damage.
wants this one. He's still got the GA. He cannot go down 4v4, and it's control over the inhibitor.
What a brutal fight that was. So much damage was absorbed by PEX, it felt like, as they were just trying to bully their way in for that inhibitor, and it was successful. Now they have 2 death timers, but Minerva packs one hell of a punch.
He really does. Quicksilver sash there as well in case something catches him like a flash rune prison. Itemizing for himself, but he is maxed out right now. Push in towards the top inhibitor turret. Slow's gonna land, doesn't seem to care. Lifesteal onto these minions as they fall down. Leandri's Torment as well for Tinones. You mentioned him going towards full build. And out goes PEX.
They have to run away. The damage dealers are still up, but even just to watch the start of this, when you can see Rengar in stealth, trying to jump in and make a play, and they don't get it. That may have been the end of the game if they could have killed Tinones, because it would have just left the 1 damage dealer. Then they deal with him. Some nice flashing by Mega JP. Kha'Zix actually tries to escape at the beginning of this, so it's a lot of chaos from the start. And here, a beautiful pulverize by Lep, but not necessarily the follow that they needed, because all of their previous spells have been burned on PEX's initiation. And then you can just see the amount of damage absorption that happened for Monterea. It was just almost enough to turn it around. And because of that rune prison, Mega JP was able to finish one off. Another half second, slow or fast by one person, could have maybe even ended the game.
And you mentioned the fact that Minerva and the rest of the team couldn't easily follow up on the roots and all the stuns that landed on Mega JP. That's the rise factor. Like, you can't run past that champion as an Orianna or a Kha'Zix or a Tristana and not expect to die.
Interesting as well. Yuri actually goes Abyssal Scepter with his last item. He had a Blasting Wand. I thought he was going to go towards a Void Staff. But here, if he goes in with the Maokai, they can actually kind of combo their damage together a little bit. And it gives him a little bit more shockwave survivability if he wants it. So,
well, you consider his targets anyway.
He's hitting at 357 AP as well, which honestly, people underestimate the AP ratios on Rise, but he is getting a fair bit of damage from that AP, considering how quickly he throws out his spells. Baron up in a minute as well. PEX does seem to have control of this one now.
And now can they close it out? They're up about 7,000 gold here in game 1 of 5 as the lanes continue to be controlled. I do want to see what ward control ends up looking like. Right now, decent defensive wards from KaBuM. They can see part of their jungle. PEX trying to control the outer lanes right here, though. Looks like tier 2 going to be under fire. Can't shake that turret, finally does so.
This is why I love League of Legends. All these games are so unique, even though it seems like this Ori Trist is going to take him down. If you just make the right plays at the right time or capitalize on a mistake here or there, you completely change the complexion of the game. And that's what PEX has continually done throughout their qualification process.
They just keep making it work despite the odds. And both these teams really have done that so far.
Ooh, the sweeper. It's a little baby Rengar sweeper. Doesn't catch the ward over in the corner.
Well, that's right. It requires Bone Tooth necklace stacks to get bigger.
Exactly.
It's not level based.
That's why sometimes you'll see a Rengar who's really far behind actually just sell the necklace for a regular sweeper. But he has faith he's going to get more trophies later. He's one stack away from having an increased leap range.
It's good.
So he's got to hold out for that. It will also update the active upgrades at 6 stacks as well. So maybe at 50 minutes he'll have those 6 stacks on Rengar.
So Rengar can't get the oracles at all buff, can he? Or is that like even later on the stack?
I don't think so.
Interesting. Well, there's the engage. Black shield and shield on a Lep, and there comes the battle. Wow! Lep steals Baron, and the battle has begun. Danagor forced away. Monterey in the front line, and who's going to be in the way for Minerva? He is kiting back for himself. Lep in the front lines as well, slowly taking down damage. Bad Milk stopping Trish from helping that one at all, as Rengar trades his life for the Alistar kill. Monterey goes down, though, and it's a 2-for-1 so far. Sorry, 2-for-2, as Dance has also died. 3v3 with Baron up.
Two completely different fights were going on there. Tanks versus damage, and it was completely split. But the Baron steal by Danagorn may have just swung this ridiculous game back yet again. It didn't necessarily impact the fight that much, but this fight it does, because the regen they have gained from that Baron buff is allowing them to continue pushing.
And that means the middle inhibitor turret has gone down, and suddenly KaBuM has equalized the turrets in the middle of the map here and brought the game back within 5,000 gold. They're going to get some buff steals as well, and there's really no way to tell who's going to win this game.
It is just so crazy. So as you can see right here, Kha'Zix leaps in and just blind smites it, basically. They had that ward, remember, because the Rengar couldn't sweep that corner. Shockwave didn't even land that well, but Tanone's just staying controlled right here. Taking down the squishy target first, and then Tanone's and Danagorn are able to get the isolations on the Monterey and finish him off. It definitely feels like PEX needs to stay together, as unintuitive as that seems against the Orianna, just to maximize their team play.
Yeah, I mean, the 2-on-2 was just completely outplayed. Tin wasn't even afraid of the Maokai hitting him, and just kept sending shields to Danagorn and saying, go win your duel, go beat up Rengar. We'll get Maokai afterwards. The young 17-year-old doing great work for KaBuM here. 4-3-5, 472 CS, now full up on items with the Zhonya's Hourglass done. And they're basically in a game where there's not much left to buy for these teams. The gold lead's not going to mean much before too long.
But you know what? As crazy as this game is, doesn't this also have the potential for the head of Kha'Zix or the 4th evolution on Kha'Zix as well?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how that works.
I think you need 14 Bone Tooth stacks.
Yeah, I think the Rengar would have to get 14 Bone Tooth stacks in order to trigger the exact event. But that could actually happen in this game, as crazy as it sounds.
Yep.
If PEX could win a couple fights and actually get some Bone Tooth stacks coming out here, because Minerva is shredding down that inhib. They burned the Alistar ult early, though. They might have a re-engage plan.
They'll get the inhib. There's the engage. Can they make the fight happen? Fragio forced away, but there's Monterey in the front line. 3-man Shockwave, but Mega JP is safe. Maokai taking all the damage, but staying alive anyway. Puts the root down, takes the damage. First kill picked up. There's the reset. Forced a flash away from Rengar, and the battle continues. Let taking shields to stay alive. Tin Owns still there with the rest of the lineup there. Blue Elixir on as well. 5v4.
If even Maokai dies against this KaBuM team, it's going to be tricky for PEX to come back. Minerva just continued to hammer down on him with that full item Trist again and again and again. And they get the inhib and the fight win. Even if it was just one kill, it was enough.
And the top lane tier 2 easily picked up there as Alistar pushes the wave in. 40 seconds of no top laner in the Baron buff on a few of these guys to make the regen happen. 30 seconds left. There's basically one wave extra that KaBuM can use. Baron buff times out as Maokai respawns for this short window. Can KaBuM get the inhibitor?
Minerva's so hard to kill. He's got the Bloodthirster shield as well as the potential shield from a 500 to 600 AP Orianna. And Monterey is still dead. This second inhibitor is indefensible.
All right, it's going to go down, and there we go, guys. 52 minutes in, 2 inhibitors go down. KaBuM finally wresting control back one more time, yet they're still down 2,000 gold.
All right.
Yeah.
52 minutes in, it feels like KaBuM has again assumed control. So PEX back against the wall. This is the part where we have to craft some elaborate thing of like what PEX in a crazy world could do to actually gain control of this game. And then they're going to go do it again.
They are.
Is kind of the pattern we're following here. But with 2 inhibitors down, and Baron as well not responding for quite some time, they are running out of options for winning the game.
Base race in the laboratory with a candlestick.
Feels like it at this point. I mean, this will be a tough loss if PEX ends up taking it, and I wonder how it's going to swing the momentum of the whole series, because I feel like they had about as many lucky things go their way, aside from the Baron steal, obviously, in this game as they're going to get in the series. And if they can't win this one, when are they going to win? I feel like if KaBuM wins this game, they'll kind of get over their nerves. I think they'll make fewer mistakes in the next game, and they may even just take a sweep here. That's my honest opinion right here, because KaBuM just seems like the stronger team who just keeps getting outplayed in these very specific situations that I do not think will happen 2 to 3 games in a row.
I tend to agree. I think it's been a pretty fortunate road for PEX, but sometimes teams just have X factor at certain events.
That's true.
They just, things work for them so many times in a row, and it's just the event of their lives. That could be PEX right here.
With 2 inhibitors down, they have to fight immediately, otherwise the super minions will push them off and they'll lose all 3.
And there's no easy way, of course, to force KaBuM to fight. You're going to engage through a shockwave, through
well, that's
Morgana
Rengar
Black
all burned.
Shield.
He throws it into a Banshee's Veil. That doesn't help matters.
Loses a quarter of his health just from a QW of Orianna. Those are back up from cooldown. Lep takes his shield as Minerva hits his turret down, almost going down. In goes the Maokai. Shockwave for the disengage. And now Mantarai is very alone for the rest of his team. They're going to turn back on everybody else now. Bad Milk in the front lines, and that will be a very dead Braum. The chase on in, 1 hit till the turret goes down. That's going to be it. In towards the next. This will be good game. This will be KaBuM. 2 wins away now from a spot at Worlds. The Nexus falls 55 minutes in. They're still down in kills. They're still down in gold, but it doesn't matter. The Brazilians take game 1.
Yeah, and you can see some pretty big relieved faces right there for KaBuM. They did not want to lose that first game despite having so many opportunities to win. Eventually, Minerva got strong enough on Trist. That's why they moved him to the role, so he could play the hyper carries and let his mechanics carry the game. You look at PEX, though, and they are a little bit upset after that one. They're still trying to stay focused for the next game, but honestly, PEX has good game sense. They know exactly when they have to make a move, and they'll go for it, but they don't seem mechanically at the same level as KaBuM. They're losing lanes. They're making up for it by forcing the right fights. They brought a very team fight focused team there that was a little bit limited as far as strategic options. It was pretty much just go in, yet they still found ways to find these really peculiar fights where they could work around the Ouster routes. Like, I give them a ton of credit for making that game 55 minutes long, but it still wasn't able to win the game, and now KaBuM gets to adjust.
Yeah. And KaBuM gets to adjust. They get to keep their laning phase victories. They get to basically crispen like your first 2 dragon fights, and like that could just be the game plan you go in. Dignitas talked about it a little bit, right? You go into the game with your early game plan, say focus on these 3 things, make it happen. And just the easy conversions, don't go for the risky plays, maybe the red buff invades. You know, when you don't track the Braum roams, right, can really backfire. But Dragon, like, everything's accounted for. It's like, bring 5 people, they'll bring 5 people.
Yeah.
Be ready to team fight them. Great, that's not too hard. And that can just be it. You kind of deny the X factor. You don't play these random situations. You don't allow the steals. You headbutt the jungler away, any kind of things like this. And that feels like it's a little bit more secure. Now, for PEX, as far as what they need to do, I feel like there's these, I don't want to say it's easy, because obviously it's incredibly difficult, but these, like, next steps that are there. It's like ward coverage. I did not see many pings come out from these guys. I did not see them keep vision control. And because they're so smart, it seems, if you have the information to make better smart choices, you can just keep outplaying them.
Seems like they're very intuitive.
Yes.
Based on a lot of their moves. One thing I will have to mention, though, is when you have a game where you get the first 2 Barons and you still lose, it's not good.
Yeah, First Blood. I think they got 1 or 2 of the first dragons.
Yeah, they got the first 3 kills. They definitely got 1 or 2 of the first dragons. They definitely got the Baron. They lost out on a lot of vision control and just late game team comp scaling. It wasn't quite there. You know, Ryze hit his max items, and then a little bit later, the Alistair, Ori, and Trist managed to get to the same thing. They're able to push through, but just, I don't think you get those things to happen multiple games in a row, because if you're getting, you know, the counter kill in your own jungle,
right,
2 of the first Barons, early dragons and you're still losing the game, it's hard mentally to be like, all right, guys, what do we do next time? Maybe if we could just get that, oh, wait, we got all the things we needed, but we still didn't win. It's really going to be difficult for PEX to come back here.
All right, we'll see if they can do that here in the next couple of games there. While there's a quick break in the action, now's a good time to send in your hashtag LOL Big Plays to us at LOL Esports. Keep those coming because it's going to be a whole bunch of fun to watch them tomorrow. But for now, going to send it over to the analyst desk for an in-depth look at KaBuM's first win.
Thanks, Freak, and a very back-and-forth win at that. But guys, before we actually get into the game, I want to talk about the fact that these are two teams coming from different regions. And as a matter of fact, to add to that, they have never actually played each other in a scrim or anything like that. They may have seen each other in solo queue, things like that, as I know some of them, they play cross-region on the servers. But as a team, they've never actually competed up against each other. That's got to play into a little bit of the unknown when you're walking into a very high-pressure situation like this.
Yeah, you could definitely tell from the way that they were playing against each other. You're kind of feeling your opponents out. They've watched each other's matches when they both got first place in their respective regions, and they are familiar with each other's play styles a bit. That's why the picks and bans, we saw the jungler focus and things like that. But you come in with your own game plan, and there sometimes throws you off, but the adjustment mid-game is something you have to think about there, because like the Tristana, the Bloodthirster, not going for the Blade of the Ruined King against such a tanky lineup is a choice he was willing to make because the Rise was doing so much damage to him. And I like things like that you see, but ultimately it doesn't seem like the right choice in that little adjustment there. But back and forth, I do think that it plays a huge factor. Like, you have to be able to play against these guys and figure it out. And I think that game right there, I think the games further on are going to have lower average game times because you're feeling your opponent out.
Of course, you can always look back at people's VODs, things like that. So it's not like they haven't had the opportunity to dissect team play and things like that. But Pobelter, how much of this first game can you kind of chalk up as a player on one of these teams to we were filling them out? Like, we're not entirely certain what they're capable of. So it's more of a learning game, and we're going to move forward from here. And then how much of it is like, oh my goodness, what are we up against? After seeing the result of that game, how do you proceed?
I think that both games kind of took it that way. We didn't really see any out-of-the-box picks from either team, and so I think they were just both playing standard, both getting a feel for their opponents. I think KaBuM should feel really comfortable. They made so many concessions in that game, but were still able to come out with the win in the end. So I think that they're confident in their individual ability to just drag the game out as late as they can. If they make some mistakes, so be it. But if it goes on long enough, we will win. I think that's the sort of mentality that they have.
All right, given the fact that they had to make so many concessions and PEX was able to pick up many early objectives, as Jap pointed out, they had 2 early Barons, they had some early Dragons, they had 3 early kills. Is it possible that we see them actually look for earlier game picks so they can capitalize off that gold? Because they still needed to get those items onto Rise, still needed to get those items onto Maokai for them to really play a big role in punishing KaBuM for those early takeaways.
I think a lot of it was catch-up at that point because KaBuM just had stronger laners across the board. Maokai was winning top lane. Orianna was actually going a little
Alistar,
bit... Sorry. Alistar was winning against Maokai. And then in the mid lane, we saw Tin doing really well against Uri, who is the star player on that team. And then Minerva down bottom had such a huge CS advantage early on that he just kept pushing it. I mean, like 50s, 60s on Tristana is just spelling death for the late game.
All right, well, now if we actually jump into the game, let's take a look at it, because I think it's kind of interesting to just look at the way that different regions prioritize picks. We saw a Vi ban, which is obviously a very targeted ban. So that's, just what are your thoughts on that as an NALCS pro Pobelter? Like, looking at other regions and going, oh my god, that's so interesting that they prioritize that champion so highly, because you would almost never see, granted, we did see Vi picked this split either once or twice, but you would almost never see that champion picked up in NALCS play.
Well, I think you can kind of see what they prioritize in the style of game they play. Vi and J4, they're very good at snowballing, and but they can really only do it if there's a lack of vision on the other side. Yes?
Oh, no, I was letting you finish first.
Oh, okay. So I don't think that the Latin American and the Brazilian teams focus warding quite heavily as we do in North America, and so I think maybe that's why those champions are a bit stronger for them.
Yeah, I think a big thing there is the team style of KaBuM is they like to camp that mid lane because Tin, this 17-year-old mid laner who just has so much talent in him, and I absolutely hate guys that are just so talented at such a young age in that mid lane that I can't stand being in the same room as them at all, ever. But yeah, Tin, he's kind of the star of that team in a way, and they like to camp that mid lane, and they use Danagorn in that regard. But when he has Vi, they'll pair it with something like an Ahri. When he has J4, it's like, yes, we can force this issue very early on, and against something like a Ryze, it's perfect. But instead, he altered his game plan this game, and he just kind of affected all of the lanes as much as he could, because it didn't end up with very good objective control on his end, because he was too focused on the lanes.
Well, definitely, yeah, favoring those, gank-heavy junglers, Jarvan, Vi, ended up on Kha'Zix, which still has a fair amount of gank presence. And as you said, they had to concede a lot of objectives, but we are going to pull up a replay of one that they didn't have to concede because he managed to get in there for the steal. So we're going to pull this up on your screens here about 48.5 minutes in. Zyrene, if you don't mind walking us through this replay.
Yeah, they pretty much come straight up Danagorn. He's looking for the first Baron of the game here for KaBuM. And Lep, we're sitting here on the analyst desk going, remember that time that Alistar 1v5'd and he didn't learn his lesson? That's pretty much Lep all game long. We'll start rolling the clip out here because it ends up being a 2-for-2 in the end with the Baron being stolen away here. Danagorn, he walks around so that he avoids the Glacial Fissure, and he jumps over the wall with evolved wings, so you had to have left the pit to actually zone him out completely. So Maokai would have had to peel off and get to him with the Twisted Advance to lock him down, but he had to have walked through multiple members to get there. So I like the adjustment there. But then Tin owns, he just has so much damage output here. He did the highest damage in the game by a large margin, basically pulling what Shifter did previously on Ziggs, but this time on Orianna, and caused a lot of disruption. His Ori ultimates were pretty on point that game.
All right.
There's a reason it was banned 4 times against him in the finals.
Well, yeah, of course. And we continue to see KaBuM close out that game fairly easily. Following that Baron, they were back in control. Pobelter, one final question to you. As you had stated, you don't think that these next games will go quite as long as the teams have now gotten their bearings under them and they've seen what the other ones are capable of. So what are your predictions in terms of how these games are going to go? Who's going to come out on top? Do you see one team running away with it now that they've gotten the first win?
I think my vote goes to KaBuM. I think they'll focus less on trying to go for these jungle invades, which didn't really turn out for them the first game, and just kind of go for snowballing the lanes and pushing down turrets. And so I think if they focus on the game that sort of way, then they'll have a much easier time winning.
All right. Well, PEX has a few more minutes to get their game plan going, and we're going to take an AFK for about 3.5 minutes. But when we come back, we'll see if KaBuM can keep up the momentum going into Game 2 versus PEX. Don't touch that browser.
Let's see Rengar.
They're going to take damage pretty soon. There's a flash and a steal from Fragio, and he's going to be going down. Raya in the front lines, and down goes Left. Beautiful shot from to buy some time, but there comes Yuri trying to get 10. They caught the back line. The root onto Dance. Who cares about an Alistar? Kill everybody else. Mega JP, 2 hits from dead, but he's got a GA. Raya now in the front lines. He's going to take it up, and they take down Danagorn. They're going to turn back on everybody else now. Bad Milk in the front lines, and that will be a very dead Braum.